Coming to you live from WTHI Delsey Studios in sunny Los Angeles, California, the Hush Hush Society presents Declassified Discussions with Slick Frank Sanders and the Molly Wop Band, featuring a special guest. And here's your hosts, Mystery Mike and Declassified Dave.
Hello, Hushlings. Tonight we are joined by a great guest. He is the host of a slew of Discovery Plus shows, including UFO Witness, Fact or Faked, and most recently, Alien Invasion Hudson Valley. Hushlings, please welcome Mr. Ben Hansen.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
We are doing well, Mr. Hansen. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
We just want to start off. Let's start by exploring your new show, Alien Invasion Hudson Valley, which I watched, and a lot of interesting stuff going on in that show, for sure. You approach the investigation kind of in a paranormal way, and you have that background, so it was very interesting to see the way that you approach that.
Yeah, so Hudson Valley is what we call like a hot spot, but not just for UFO activity. That had been going on. What I didn't know before getting into there, I remember that there were UFO sightings, thousands of them during the 80s. I think it was primarily 83 to 84. And that time span, and what was we got there though and learned that this had been happening since the early 1900s and continuing. But what I wasn't aware of is that it also includes a lot of other, what people would say, paranormal phenomena. And there's a couple places I know of in the United States and in the world where I call it kind of a parapalooza of paranormal occurrences, because the big question kind of for us was, is there a relationship to these alleged abductions and also very classic sort of ghost and poltergeist activity? There are Bigfoot sightings there. How is it all happening at once? And is it related to the geology or the people, or, why do these things tend to happen in the same location?
We've explored that with a couple other things, like we did a Mothman episode with another podcast, and that whole paranormal trifecta of everything going on at once in one spot. Yeah,
and I think the kind of the way that the thinking is leading towards is when we deal with, now I'm not a physicist by any means. My background was mostly sociology, criminology, but from what I understand with quantum physics and how they've now opened up their minds to considering that there's multi-dimensions. The word dimension sounds sci-fi, right? But if you look at what the government has actually funded, they funded studies, $22 million they put into the UAP studies. But a lot of it came up with ideas such as wormholes, portals, things like that you think are completely sci-fi, but you're really talking about other dimensions. And so if that's even a possibility, why don't we have an open mind to say there could be locations where maybe the conditions are just right, where these things happen more frequently, because let's say there's spirits, of departed people that share the same physical space we do, but we don't always see them. And there's conditions whereby sometimes they're seen or they kind of come through a portal of sorts. So why not also visitors from other planets? Maybe they're able to travel from long distance, and it's hard in this field to actually nail something down and say very rigidly, this is impossible or that's not, because it's also weird. It's so weird, and just when you think you have a grasp on a theory, something else astounds you.
Mm-hmm. What's also kind of weird, there's mention that aliens possibly are interested with people that have Rh negative blood. What do you think is so special about that extraterrestrials might be interested in?
Well, Yeah, some UFO researchers stumbled upon that as they were looking for different patterns, and it was published in one study. I think there needs to be more done with it because it's not something typical that they would ask people. Um, that now that it's kind of discovered, I think there needs to be a larger sample. But it could be a spurious connection. It could be, I have no idea, something related to um, maybe RH negative people, gosh, I don't know, like have a different psychology about them and in reporting these things, or in certain regions of, I mean, our question was in Hudson Valley. First of all, are there more RH negative people? And that's something we need to look into now that we've discovered this. The theory among some researchers is that there's something about that blood type is it kind of creates like a marker, right? So that they could focus. Let's say they wanted to do experiments, whoever they are, wanted to do experiments on humans that, but they need to track those specific humans through and genealogy and DNA and everything. So that is one way we can mark and track blood is by its blood type, whether it presents the RH factor or not, right? And so there could be different qualities with the blood. We know that, whether you have the RH factor or not, when a mother is pregnant, it can affect the baby. Mm-hmm. And so all we know at this point is there does seem to be some relationship from at least the one study. So I would love to see academia really get into it, and people with medical backgrounds really take this seriously and not just laugh at it, and do more testing and seeing, like what would be the draw, no pun intended, for that type of blood.
Yeah, that'd be definitely interesting to see the results of that kind of research.
One thing that I thought was interesting, and you had this little tidbit at the end of the show, was that, what was it, a staggering amount, 50% of Hudson Valley residents are RH negative?
Yeah, I would have to, they did some, post-production research after I was done with that, and I'd have to look at that to see exactly where that comes from. But when they look at the data is the thing. It's like, to get to that raw data, I think we were talking about the people that we had tested, and I know we don't give their names out for their own privacy, but of the people that we tested, that have these alleged experiences and stuff, it's even higher than what those original researchers were saying in the prevalence, of related to these alleged abductions. And so again, I mean, we're confirming that there is something there that I think needs to be looked at. And if you have a population that has a higher percentage, gosh, I don't know. I mean, how do you, just because you're RH negative doesn't mean your children are going to be, and to pass that on to them. But you do have generations of people, at least from when I was there, who lived there and had never moved away, their great grandfathers and everything. So the, don't take me wrong. I wanted to say this in a derogative way, but the gene pool is not as, it's an isolated area more so than other areas, like a lot of rural places. When people grow up and marry within the same, regions, you're going to have similar genes.
Yep.
And so I hope I said that in a way that's not saying that people are they're not intermarrying. But it would be different in a metropolis, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, with Hudson Valley being a possible spot for a portal, and with the increased amount of phenomena that you can see there, has it changed your overall view on extraterrestrials at all?
Yeah, I think it has. Because I've always, traditionally kind of thought that whoever these visitors are probably coming from light years away. Physicists always jump in and they say, "Oh, that's impossible because they couldn't survive the trip." And now the new physicists are saying, well, actually it might be because of what we're learning about black holes and wormholes, and maybe there is some sort of interdimensional bending of time and space. So, but if they are coming through some sort of dimension thing, and now we're classifying them as interdimensional beings. And I think Hudson Valley really presents a great case for that. And it also presents a case of how these things can disappear and then reappear several miles away. You know, and this has been confirmed on radar. This has been confirmed, at least that's what appears, what's happening with these latest Navy videos and the Tic Tac videos and stuff that are making the rounds. Radar shows they disappear, and then 60 miles away in less than a second, they reappear. So either they're traveling in the blink of an eye, or they're literally like disappearing sort of into a kind of a dimensional thing, and then it can turn that back on. Right. So this has been going on in Hudson Valley. You also get stories of people literally being kind of pulled through their ceiling. You know, this is a common abduction thing where your body, they feel like, you know, rises up above their bed, and they're actually kind of pulled through the window. I mean,
yeah,
a closed window, or through the wall. You know, and so at first you're like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. But if there is some sort of interdimensionality at play, and materials are even able to be manipulated, you know, to where you could be pulled through things, or they could walk through things, I believe those physics exist. I completely believe they exist. I just don't know, you know, if if we ourselves have been able to master that. Probably not. And if visitors, you know, that are coming here, if that's what they're doing, it's fascinating.
It is.
Just one more question, because I know that you're going to run. You know, you just talked about the Tic Tac videos, and we were just wondering what your thoughts on the latest disclosure of the UAP phenomenon is.
So a lot of people were disappointed. Congress and the Intelligence Authorization Act basically ordered that the DoD release information about what they have, and it turned out that they came out with what was about a 7-page report that was unclassified, and a 17-page report that was the classified version. Okay, so a lot of people are like, oh, that's nothing. That was so disappointing, and they didn't really say anything. I disagree. This is an amazing first step, because if you read the report, there's about 7 times they mention the phrase national security threat, and they admit that this phenomenon is real. Now, that is the first real formal admission. It's been done in the past internally, but this is the kind of the first formal admission the government has told us, let's start here. This is happening. Something's happening. And it took us this long to even get to that point, right? So now they're not going to come out and say, you know, aliens are a real possibility. They don't use the word aliens in the report, but they do everything but that. I mean, they say they found no evidence, excuse me, that these objects were from a foreign adversary. They find no evidence that these objects are black projects of ours. And so they kind of leave it in this, what they call other category. All right. And so we're left to guess what the other category is, but they're saying, regardless, this is worth our study. These are national security threats. We don't know who they are, where they come from. We can't control them. So now what's happened, the latest news, which didn't make much news coverage, but they now require a report every 90 days. So every quarter, the Navy, kind of being in charge, must report on the previous 90 days of all the UAP UFO incidents that have happened. And so now they're going to keep them up to date, supposedly. And they're going to go back and report on things they didn't report on before. So it's a great first step, because at least we have funding, we have people, Congress, Senate, taking it seriously, and hopefully we'll get some more answers.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know about that 90-day thing. Ben, thank you so much for coming by Declassified Discussions. And Hushlings, check out Alien Invasion, Hudson Valley. It's a great hour-and-a-half show.
Yes,
thank you very much again, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
Hushlings, join us next time. Give your attention to Slick Frank Sanders and the Mollywop Band.
And good night.